Dub Nation. After the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dub's OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Maxey, Yabusele, spot up three, hit it! Yabusele off the bench, having an incredible night for the 76ers, 5 of 7 from 3. And stepping out of bounds with Santos, he did not establish himself before touching that basketball on the pass from Draymond Green, so a costly turnover by the Warriors.
Costly turnover for the Warriors, and there were a lot of costly turnovers for the Warriors and a lot of costly plays for the Warriors as well in this one. Philly wins it 126-119, and the Warriors see their 5-game winning streak come to an end. 808 KNBR, it's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. Hey, guess what? Breaking news right off the top of the show. You want to hear hit the breaking news sounder, Kyle? I think we need breaking news right off the top of the show here as the Warriors lose in Philly. Yep, breaking news. The Warriors stink without Jimmy Butler. The Warriors stink without Jimmy Butler. And again, I'm going to be really blunt and honest, as I always am with the good people here on Dubs OT and on KNBR. The team that played tonight for the Golden State Warriors in Philadelphia is the team that was headed for the 11th or the 12th seed in the Western Conference had they not made a trade at the deadline. Now, Jimmy Butler comes in. It's been all rainbows and ice cream and candy. And look, the team that they've had with Jimmy Butler enhancing Steph Curry's play, enhancing Draymond Green's play, enhancing some of the role players' performances, Moses Moody specifically, Brandon Pajemski, even Buddy Hield to a lesser extent. Quentin Post has been a player that had started to come on, and all of those guys really had started to come on a little bit before the Jimmy Butler acquisition. But the acquisition of Jimmy Butler had turbocharged this whole thing for the Warriors to the point where I think both things can be equally true. The Warriors at 7-1 coming into this game with Jimmy Butler in the fold, they look like a team that was legitimately and rightfully headed to the 6th seed in the Western Conference. Like and a team that could make some noise in the playoffs, upset a team, maybe upset 2 teams if they get the right level of matchups. But let's not confuse what this team has been over the last 3 weeks with Jimmy Butler with the team that they are without Jimmy Butler, as they lose tonight to a Philadelphia 76ers team that, yes, was given a boost and played well on ABC, having lost 9 consecutive games, but they're actively tanking. And I saw the guys in the ABC telecast pregame, and Bob Myers was the one that said it to Kendrick Perkins and to others. Like, the Sixers are going to play hard tonight. They're in front of a national audience. They just were down 50 in their last home game to Chicago. Like, this isn't even really about the Sixers, although the Warriors did allow for Quentin Grimes to eviscerate them tonight. How many Quentin Grimes end up with? 44 for Quentin Grimes. 6 of 9 from 3. The Sixers beat the Warriors in part because of a hot night from three-point range. They made 19 of 33 overall. Yabusele hit 3 of 4 from 3. Kelly Oubre hit 3 threes. Paul George had a nice fourth quarter and hit 3 3-pointers. I mean, they won a night where Tyrese Maxey was 2 for 14 because Quentin Grimes basically pulled a Tyrese Maxey and went for 44. But I hate to be overly blunt, overly harsh, but it's pretty simple. Before the Butler trade, the Warriors were headed toward an 11 or 12th placed finish in the West. And since the trade, they look like, in my mind, the favorite to get the 6th seed and make some noise in the playoffs. But this team playing tonight is not a good team. I've seen enough. I think we've all seen enough. Jimmy Butler makes that much of a difference. So don't evaluate this team that played tonight with the expectation level of the team that we've seen the last 3 weeks, because this is not that team. This is the team that lost to Utah. This is the team that lost to Toronto. This is the team that after they were 12-3 was 10 games over or under 500 for basically 3 months of the season. This game that the Warriors played tonight, whether it's letting Orlando get going and kill him from three-point range, or the bad defense, or the inability to score when Stephen Curry's not on the court, to have nobody really step up and be a true secondary contributor in this one. The game that the Warriors played tonight is exactly the team that they've been without Jimmy Butler for 3 months. Tonight, and I said it with about 3 minutes left, I actually gave the Warriors a small amount of credit for hanging in the game, as bad as they were. And I said it with about 3 minutes left. They might win the game, they might lose the game, but this team, they must have Jimmy Butler play. This team without Jimmy Butler just ain't it. Like it's bottom line. And we knew it on February 5th, and we knew it on February 6th, and we've seen it over the course of these last 3 weeks where this team is 7-1. So immediately, as everybody was starting to print their playoff tickets for the 6th seed in the first round, and look, I'm guilty of it. We talked about it on Just Dubs this morning. The fact that, what matchup do you want if you can get to 6 and all of that? But the bottom line is they need, and we said when Anthony Slater had the report from Warrior Shoot-Around this morning in Philadelphia, the fact that, they can't be basically given away any more of these games. And the notion that, hey, can you rest Jimmy? Can you get away with him not playing him? I was pretty blunt about it this morning. Like, you need Jimmy Butler to play. Like this team, and they need Jimmy Butler to play in Charlotte, and they need Steph Curry to play in Charlotte. And it's going to be a 3-4 because the Knicks are the second of a back-to-back, and that's a national game on Tuesday. So that's a game where the league frowns upon resting of players. So maybe Jimmy Butler, because he's already been out and has the injury, and if this back thing is still a thing, maybe he doesn't go in Charlotte. But Steph Curry's got to play these next 2 games. And Charlotte being his hometown, I think he will. But again, this should surprise no one that the Warriors put the level out there tonight that they put out there, because we watched it for however many games up until the trade deadline, 50 plus, and we watched it last year, and we even watched it the year before for a good chunk of the year. This is just not a good basketball team without Jimmy Butler. With Jimmy Butler, team that can make some noise and maybe even win around and mold themselves into contenders for next season. So we welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. On the one hand, I mean, this is just galling, frustrating, annoying, aggravating a loss as the Warriors have had all season. On the other hand, I think anybody that wants to hold this team to the standard of what they are without Jimmy Butler, don't miss the point here. I just want to make sure that I'm making myself perfectly clear. It's a game that, should the Warriors be able to win a game like tonight without Jimmy Butler? I mean, I think the short answer is yes, but it's far from a guarantee. And again, if you've watched this team over the last couple of years, you would know that it's far from a guarantee. All right, let's get into some of the details specifically here as it relates to this game, as the Warriors do take the L 126 to 119. Stephen Curry had it tonight, 29 points, although at times he was taken out of the game, I guess. At times he wasn't aggressive, I guess. At times he was, other times he wasn't. Times the Sixers were taking the ball out of his hands. I mean, all part of the usual deal. But here's the main storyline as it relates to this one for the Warriors. I mean, when Steph was on the floor tonight, Steph Curry plus 12. Well, the Warriors lost by 7, so that means they were a minus 19 with Steph not on the floor. So all of the things that were pre-Jimmy Butler issues come back and come to fruition, and it's right there, point blank, smacking you in the face, the fact that the non-Curry minutes cost the Warriors tonight. Minus 19. Non-Curry minutes cost the Warriors in this one. Warriors had made themselves into a top defensive team since Jimmy Butler joined. They were not that. They were top 10, 12 for a good chunk of the year, but the dribble penetration game, the kickouts for threes, the overhelping, a lot of that stuff was a problem for the Warriors in the time prior to Jimmy Butler joining. I thought tonight was a game where Philly was really allowed to get comfortable. They allowed Quentin Grimes to get comfortable. They allowed Yabusele to get comfortable. They allowed for a fluid game where there wasn't a lot of defensive resistance to begin here in this one. And then it enabled a couple of these guys, Quentin Grimes in particular, to cook them. And tonight's a game where you need somebody to throw on Quentin Grimes. Point of attack defense is something that comes into play here as well. Just somebody that you can throw on somebody to just clamp them down for a little bit. Steve Kerr went with the Quentin post start. He slid Draymond to the 4, Moses Moody to the 3. Moses Moody, Warriors lose for the first time with Moses Moody as a starter. Neither team was hitting shots early. Warriors had 3 points in the first 4 minutes of the game. There were these little stretches, these little, not extended stretches, but there were 2 or 3 little 3-4 minute stretches where the Warriors just couldn't score, and had they might have been able to steal this one. 3 points in the first 4 minutes, and then Curry got on a heater. Warriors very quickly could not stop Quentin Grimes. Buddy Hield was awful tonight. I mean, he started early, and add that to the list of guys that had looked a little bit more respectably playable at a minimum, like Buddy Hield in the Jimmy Butler era. Yeah, some bad, some good, but overall the thing was much more level in the Jimmy Butler era. Buddy Hield stunk tonight. Brandon Pajemski, one of his worst games in weeks, and Moses Moody, I thought, had one of his worst games in weeks. And so you look at it. I mean, who played well for the Warriors in this game? Steph plus 12. GP2 plus 8. He played well, had 15 points. That's why Gary Payton II was out there for a good chunk of this one. Quentin Post, I thought, played well tonight in the starting role. The Warriors needed his 3-point shooting, only made 12 threes in the game tonight. I thought Draymond in the second half in the fourth quarter tried to salvage what otherwise was a pretty bad night offensively. And, Looney, non-factor tonight. Kevin Knox was brutal. He was the guy that got rotation minutes. And Kevin Knox was so bad in his first 7-minute stint in the first half that was it. You ain't playing anymore. Keith Santos, okay, up and down, gave him a lift with 14 points and 4 boards, but a couple of critical miscues at different times for Keith Santos, including the inbounds there late. And, it's just the kind of night where the Warriors and Sixers tied at 30 after 1. Curry led the offense, which looked a little shaky to start, but the defense was much more vulnerable without Jimmy Butler. And the non-Curry minutes right off the jump proved to be a problem all night. -6 without Butler available. And in that final 2:07 of the quarter, Warriors were up 6 when Curry had subbed out. And then the Warriors are turning it over in the second quarter. The Sixers had 7 threes in the early part of the second quarter. Warriors are down a couple after leading by 6. And again, it was like we were just talking about. Steph and Gary Payton were playing well. The Warriors are missing layups. I mean, literally everything, as we bring in Kyle Haar here, literally everything that's been a problem for the Warriors pre-Jimmy Butler was a problem tonight. Random guy getting off scoring, missed layups. I mean, inability to execute down the stretch, secondary scoring, non-Steph minutes. I mean, is there anything I'm leaving out here? I mean, it's all of the obvious ones. Everything that everybody's pissed off about constantly, Kyle, as it relates to this Warriors team, all right there, full display, up front and in front of everybody to see there tonight.
Yeah, I'm texting a friend of the show, Greg Silver, letting out some early frustrations. And yes, Buddy Hield being Buddy Hield. The end of that first quarter going into the start of the second quarter where they were scoreless in like 5-6 minutes without Steph. Quentin Grimes. Where did that come from? And then ineffectiveness from Pods and Moody. It's just like everything that was going good during the stretch with Jimmy Butler just reverted back to itself like that in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's kind of a reality check night here on Dubs OT. It really is. It's a reality check night. This is not a good team without Jimmy Butler. We all knew it. Imagine, as I've said a couple of different times, we talked about it on Just Dubs this morning. There is much more. It kind of hit me thinking about it yesterday when Jimmy Butler popped up on the injury report as questionable with the back spasms. The fragility of it all, because I sort of played it out in my mind, and I didn't want to be negative Nancy, so I didn't want to overstate it really on Just Dubs. I would let the thing play out. But when I saw Jimmy Butler come up as questionable, and look, I thought he had a pretty good chance to play. Although when you've won 7 of 8, if something's bothering you, you get, take today. You already had yesterday. You get tomorrow, back-to-back coming up. Maybe if you could steal tonight, you give him the Charlotte game off, bring him back against the Knicks, and you could get 2 wins potentially without him, keep him rested, keep him fresh. I understand all of that thought process, but the truth is, my mind went down the path immediately to, I wouldn't be surprised if this team, if Jimmy had to miss a couple of games, basically looked exactly like the team that they were before the trade, only Kuminga's still not back, and now you don't have Andrew Wiggins. And so it really, there was a very blunt, and it was very clear in my mind, even for a game like tonight, and people are going to go crazy about it, but even in a game like tonight, it just hit me like, wow, like this is just not, this team just ain't it. Like, he needs to be healthy. He needs to play. If he does, I think the ceiling for this team looks completely, literally, I think he's the difference between this team being a 6 seed and missing the top 10 altogether. Now, I think they are going to have enough, obviously, to get into the top 10. But if you told me, Jimmy Butler's not playing the rest of the year, they'd immediately be, they would be, as I've said about a few other teams, playing for 9th or playing for 10th. They need him because they did not have a built-in margin for error in this whole setup, because the fact that by the time he started playing, they were a game under 500. That's just the reality of the situation. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. How surprised are you? I don't think anybody should be. We can get to that here on Dubs OT with JD. We got Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios. Quentin Grimes goes for 44, and the Warriors lose to the Philadelphia 76ers 126-119. Sixers hadn't won since February 4th, 9 in a row. And the Warriors lose for just the second time since the Jimmy Butler trade. And they are now, 7-1 with Jimmy Butler, but 7-2 now since the Jimmy Butler trade. And it's on to Charlotte and then New York and then Brooklyn. And, this team's going to have to get one back if they want to look to have a 4-1 road trip. But the big thing is, and I don't want to make Warrior fans any more panic stricken than they already have a tendency to be from time to time, but this team needs Jimmy Butler in a big time way. So let's get our initial, and we appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. 808 KNBR, the number to jump in and join the conversation here. 415-808-5627, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open here. 408, JD, are you pretty concerned with this loss, or do you think it's more a blip on the radar? I'm pretty concerned. I'm pretty concerned because I think this team, I'm pretty concerned if they're going to play games without Jimmy Butler. I'll put it that way. And again, I think at this point, I'm probably repeating myself, but if Jimmy Butler is going to play the rest of the year, then I think it's more of a blip. If Jimmy Butler's going to miss games, and I already kind of thought this coming into this game, they can lose to anybody. I think they're a bottom 10 team in the NBA without Jimmy Butler. Now that Wiggins is gone, and at least until Kuminga's back, and is tonight a game you win with a good Kuminga performance? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If Kuminga had come back tonight, that's no guarantee that he would have given them a good Kuminga performance. Like if you had gotten a good Kuminga performance, I think you win. But I don't think, especially if it had been his first game back, you could have necessarily expected that. We'll also get to Shams of ESPN, who had the latest on Kuminga, and it sounds like maybe it's going to be a little bit longer. The Warriors reportedly considering potentially bringing Jonathan Kuminga back next weekend. Everybody had sort of thought maybe Monday in Charlotte, but the Warriors really trying to make extra sure that he's healthy here before they bring him back, because I think they don't want to have him wind up coming back and then ultimately being back on the shelf again, to where you're trying to reacclimate him. If he has to go out again, you're reacclimating him at that point really close to the end of the season, and you may not be able to get him back into a role that you really need or want him to be in, with the playoff or a play-in looming. And we saw last year he came back with not a lot of time to spare and was basically ineffective. So I think you want to make sure he's healthy, and you want to make sure that the ramp up for Kuminga's ability to return is significant enough to where he can have his role and thrive at his role, and allow for it to be, to be able to play out without any setbacks. 808 KNBR, Robin Berkeley is up first here tonight on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Hey, Rob, what's going on tonight, my man?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. I love your shows. Hey, I was hoping you could describe exactly what it is that Mr. Butler does that makes things different, kind of technically. What exactly? It's not the points, right? It's something else. Can you describe exactly what he does that makes things different?
Well, one, he's an alpha personality. Two, he makes the simple play. He demands attention from the defense, and he's a superstar player that makes the simple play maybe as good as any superstar player. He makes the right play in the context of the offense, whether it's a drive, whether it's drawing a foul, whether it's finding a cutter.
I'm sorry. How does he help the other guys get so much better? Exactly.
Because he is a star player that demands attention from a defense. Like, he is somebody that can get his own as much as he wants, honestly, going to the basket, drawing fouls. Again, teams have to pay extra attention to him, which frees up Steph, and then teams have to pay extra attention to Steph, which frees up the other guys. Having somebody that is a bona fide talent. And it's funny, you said, not the scoring, but he was the fastest player to 100 points of any player in Warriors history that joined the team. So he very quietly was scoring a lot. Much of it was coming at the free throw line in terms of drawing fouls, but he has an ability to impact the game without scoring. He's a great team defender. He's a extremely intelligent, high IQ player, and he's a playmaker for others at a significant level. And I think you saw the immediate impact of how it was, energizing Curry and getting Curry, easier looks. And that in turn was opening up easier looks for others as the defense would get into more of a scramble mode. So it all works hand in hand. We haven't seen, in fairness, we haven't seen the greatest of Jimmy Butler's scoring ability with the Warriors, like in terms of, most of it coming at the free throw line. But I think when you look at it, it's a scenario where he's just one of those guys that makes everybody better. He also plays the non-Curry minutes, which the Warriors were a minus 19 in, and he gives you somebody that you can run the offense through in the time where Steph is not on the floor. And the Warriors were not only holding their own in the minutes in which Steph was not on the court because they were staggering the two, the Warriors were winning the minutes in which Curry was not on the floor. Imagine being a plus 12 if you're the Warriors tonight with Steph on the floor. If you're even a net 0 in the non-Curry minutes tonight, you win the game by 12. Now you end up minus 19 in the game in the minutes where Curry was not on the court. We're talking about 12 minutes. The Warriors were 12 minutes. Curry didn't play because he went 36 tonight. 12 minutes. The Warriors were a minus 19. They lost the game quite literally. Yes, down the stretch. Yes, Grimes, all of those things. But they were a minus 19 in a quarter of the game that Stephen Curry didn't play. So all of those things factor in. I hope I gave a detailed enough answer there, Kyle, as it relates to Jimmy Butler. But he is a superstar at the little things: defense, team defense, passing, IQ, get to the free throw line, and he's just got an aura. I mean, that's the other thing. He's got I'm an alpha aura, right? Like he doesn't. Everybody here, because it's Steph Curry in the Bay, talks about it as, yeah, Jimmy's a hell of a number 2. Like Jimmy Butler doesn't think of himself as a number 2. Jimmy Butler thinks of himself as a number 1. Like I guarantee, like Jimmy Butler's not thinking, hey, I'm number 2 with Steph. Jimmy Butler's thinking I'm number 1A with Steph as the 1. So there's a mentality and a confidence that I think comes with that, and just more talent, more top end talent allows everybody else to just fall into their role. And I think that's what we saw specifically with Pajemski. I think that's what we were seeing with Moody. You were seeing. I mean, tonight it was just so apparent. Every frustrating component of every Warriors player, not named Steph Curry, any player you want to pick out that has a frustrating component to their game tonight, you can go up and down the box score. I challenge Warrior fans to do it. Every single Warrior player tonight, whatever their flaw is that maybe had been covered up by the Jimmy Butler effect, was back tonight. Everyone. I mean, it was like watching a game on February 5th. I mean, or February 6th. The last time that we really had a show like this, where the Warriors had a game like this, the night of the trade at Utah. They're up 11 or 13 or whatever it was with 3 minutes to go. Wiggins is gone, and they have a horrific loss. Now, the next night, they got down 25 to LeBron and the Lakers and ended up making it somewhat of a respectable game down the stretch. But like, this is just, we haven't seen it because Jimmy Butler's covered it up, but every frustrating component of every individual player's game was on full display here tonight once again. And it's who these players are. These players did not suddenly become different players. And I think, that's another thing that needs to be kept in mind here as we watch how the remainder of this season shakes out. If you're the Warriors and you're hell-bent on, forget about this year for a second, but you're hell-bent on being a championship contender next year, do not be fooled by what the Jimmy Butler effect means towards some of your role players and younger players between now and the end of the year. That does not mean that those guys are suddenly better players and can stand on their own. There's a difference between being a player that can stand on his own and being a player who's impacted by a system and other high-end talent playing around him. And so, when it gets to the offseason, if this team ends up going out in the first round or whatever it winds up being, you got to get better, because here's the other thing that's going to come into play in the offseason. You're going to have to play games without Steph and without Jimmy Butler next year in the regular season. Like, you have to build a team that's good enough next year to withstand the regular season at a level to where once you get to the playoffs, your seed is good enough to where you believe you can contend for a championship. None of this getting to sixth nonsense is part of the equation next year. Next year, you want to be top 4. Next year, you want to be top 3. So, again, maybe not the biggest topic for tonight, but don't be fooled. Eric in San Francisco next year on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Eric?
Hey, JD. A couple quick points. One, I think tonight exemplified why Gabe Vincent and Max Strauss have not been heard of since they stopped playing with Jimmy Butler, as you saw with Pods and Moody kind of just going into their reverting back to their pre-Butler selves. Secondly, I think that Kuminga should definitely start over Moody. I know there's the spacing issue, but Moody hasn't hit anything in the past couple games. And if he's going to be, Kuminga's a better defender, better rebounder. So once he gets his feet back under him, I'd rather see him in the lineup, even if there is the spacing issue. And lastly, that was just, what makes it even worse is that Maxey and Paul George played like garbage tonight. We let Quentin Grimes go for 44. So their top 3 players were all hurt. Embiid was out, and the hand injuries to both George and Maxey, they didn't give them anything. So, I think you're absolutely right that this team showed its true colors without Butler, and it shows even though Butler's not the classic scorer, it's the additive effect that he creates he gets players paid because he makes them better. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but it sounds like you do. So
wholeheartedly. I completely agree with it. And look, the 8 games is a relatively small sample, but we watched 50 games of what this team was before the Jimmy Butler trade. And again, he shows up with back spasms and can't go tonight. It happens. He's an older player. Part of his story is the fact that he pops up with some injuries here and there and has to miss some time. You hope it's nothing significant. But the overarching takeaway for me tonight, Eric, and it's frustrating on the one hand, it's not on the other hand, because at least in my mind, as bad as it is, you almost expected it. This team basically just turned right back into the team that they were before the trade. So right. It's just, it shouldn't be alarming necessarily, but I do think it shows how fragile this thing truly is right in the moment on March 1st, where the Warriors had spent the last 3 weeks so quickly catching up from 11th. They made it all the way up to tied for 6th, technically 7th. And now you've got, one bad loss, but all of a sudden in a Western Conference that's so tight, the Timberwolves lose a couple, the Kings have won a couple, they're set up to lose some games with a very difficult schedule in March. They won tonight in Houston, kind of randomly, with Sabonis going out in the first minute, and all of a sudden you're basically within a half game of them again, from 9th or 10th. And so it can all change very quickly, and the Warriors are going to have their main guys available. I think that point is something that needs to be hammered home here. And if you didn't believe it, you definitely believe it now.
Oh, one other point. How many layups are we going to miss? I know it's been a problem all year, but I counted at least a half a dozen layups that we've missed. Just like straight up wide open layups.
I had 6 in the first quarter. I'm going to look right. I'm going to look right now at the quick shot chart, because it is. I always look at the paint number, and the Warriors ended up 34 of 54 in the paint, but I'm looking at even closer range than that. I mean, it was, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I'm looking at 13 or 14 basically for the game, and half of them were in the first 8 minutes. It seemed like tonight.
I just don't understand how we can't, like, Draymond consistently, I know it's always been an issue of his, but man, he misses a lot of wide open layups. I know he's not a scorer, but man, I think he missed at least 4 wide open layups tonight.
Yeah, it was not pretty. There's no doubt. I'm looking at Draymond's line. Yeah, 5. He was 5 of 11 in the paint. I'm looking 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5. He missed 5 layups tonight. Actually, 6. All of his misses were within 2 feet of the rim. In this one, he missed a couple of threes, but yeah, 5 of 11 in the paint. I've got him for 6 missed layups for Draymond Green in this one, or 6 shots within 2 feet of the rim for Draymond Green. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It harkens back to the first 50 plus games of the season pre-Butler and all the same problems. How do you go minus 19 in 12 minutes, and how do you let Quentin Grimes go? What was he, like 17 for 21?
Yeah, 18 of 24 is what it ended up. He had a couple of misses late, but I mean 44 points. He was 6 of 9 from 3, couldn't miss. Other than his free throws tonight, he did miss some. He did miss some free throw. Odd to see a night where a guy goes 6 of 9 from 3 and 2 of 8 at the free throw line. But yeah, I mean, he just did whatever he wanted. And again, it's the prime example, and we saw this a lot for the Warriors in the first 50 plus games. They allow a player or a team to get comfortable, and then down the stretch, they're feeling comfortable. So even if the defense is ramped up in those moments, players have the confidence to knock down shots because they've seen the ball go in the basket for the whole night. And I think that's where you get Grimes able to hit a couple of those down the stretch. The other thing that really did, as bad as Paul George was for the first 3+ quarters, Paul George did hit a couple of big buckets in the final couple of minutes that helped obviously Philly, in big moments where it looked like the Warriors were going to have a chance to steal this thing. Hey, Eric, thanks for the call, man. Really appreciate it. We got a few other people on the line that want to talk, but great phone call here tonight on Dubs OT.
Thanks. Have a good night. All
right. From Eric, let's go to Mike in San Francisco next. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. What's up, Mike?
How you doing, JD?
I'm hanging in there, man. I mean, we haven't had one of these in about 3.5 weeks, but here we are.
Please don't. I don't
Wasn't going to be easy, right, Mike?
I'm befuddled. I don't even know if that's a word. First off, I mean, besides the layup thing off the last caller, how many free throws did Philly miss? 9, 10, 11?
Philly was more than that. Philly missed. Actually, no, it was 11. 7. Yeah, 11. 6 of them were Grimes, okay. But yes, 7 overall.
Okay. Well, that's just
11 overall.
You can't lose a game when the other team misses that many free throws. Although, my other point too is I heard you talking, and trust me, I've been watching sports for 40 years. Diehard Bay Area fan. Now, I don't expect them to win the finals this year. I expect them to make a run. But I'm just thinking back to, I mean, look what the Heat did twice with Butler. And he got them to a finals basically. I mean, yeah, they got Hero, they got Adebayo and that, but once again, I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but I mean, you get in the tourney, man. Who knows? I mean, I just don't know, but I just love watching them play. But you got to have Butler in there. There's no other thing to say about it.
I mean, it's not, they're a 500 team without him. I mean, they are, I think, and again, I hate to be overly harsh or blunt, but I mean, they're a bottom third team when they have to play without him. I mean, the Sixers hadn't won a game since February 4th, and are shut Embiid down, all of that. You knew they were going to play hard, obviously, tonight, but no, they have to have Butler playing as many of these games as possible. And, the one thing I will say, I think at times, a team starts playing well like the Warriors had been playing here these last 3 weeks, and you start to think that the thing can sustain itself even as you start taking a player here, a player there away. And I think with the role players, that might be true, but it's the one thing that could derail this thing would be Steph having to miss some time or Jimmy Butler having to miss some time, independent of when they get Kuminga back. I think Kuminga helps in some games, but I don't think you can count on Kuminga till he gets back and really is, works his way back to where he looks like he did before the injury. Then I think you can rely on him, and maybe he helps you win a game like tonight if he's already been playing for a week or two and got his game back and got his rhythm back. I think it's a little unfair to put, that much on him. Like he needs to come back and basically save this thing. But to your point on the playoffs, I mean, yes, a couple of years ago, they were the 8th seed with Miami and got to the finals. And I think, this team, there's no Steph on that team, right? And it's sure Jimmy's 2 years earlier, 2 years younger, 33 as opposed to 35. But I think that's the thought, is that they can make a run. But those teams didn't, that's the East. Those teams didn't win the title ultimately. The bubble team, I think, was the 5th seed. I was looking at the 2020. They won 44 games, I think, before everything got shut down in March of 2020, and then they picked it back up in August. But I think that's what the hope is: get the 6th seed, and maybe are a 6 seed that really is, with Jimmy at least, closer to a 2 or a 3 seed, and that team can have the potential to get on a run. But none of that's going to matter if they can't keep him healthy and get back on the path that they were on here before this loss tonight. Mike, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. 808 KNBR from Mike. Kyle, where are we at? Do we need to take a quick timeout, or do we want to get Chuck in there?
Let's go to Chuck.
Let's get Chuck in Sacramento jumping in and joining the conversation here on the Sports Leader, and then we'll take our first time out. We'll get into the YouTube chat. We got some text messages. Warriors lose 126-119 to the Philadelphia 76ers. What's on your mind tonight, Chuck?
Hey, JD, been listening to you for years. Thanks for breaking the game down so well. You give a lot of really intelligent thought to your listeners, so that's why I'm calling you tonight. I usually don't have time to call, but I'm doing it tonight. Got some quick fire observations for you guys. You guys started at the top of the show talking about Pods and Healed. Both those guys and their lack of performance tonight had a lot to do with why the game turned out the way it did. I was particularly disgusted with how Pods could even play late in the game. You don't have Jimmy Butler out there, and Pods was benched at the end of the game for Guy Santos. And I also question Kerr's decision about playing Guy Santos against Grimes. As hot as Grimes was, why was GP not playing against him late in the game? I also am not real happy with how they defended or did not defend, what's his name, Yubel Leslie. I think I played for Boston in 2019, right? He was left open by Draymond for a 3 that he hit with 3 minutes left, and then he was left open with a minute and a half left, and he sunk another 3 to put Philly up by 5. And also Draymond, you guys mentioned how bad he was tonight. He missed several layups. I think he was 2 of 13. And he also fouled Grimes on that 3 with a minute and a half left, which was awful, or 56 seconds left. That was inexcusable. Did they do anything right the last 2 minutes of the game too? I mean, I guess Guy Santos hit that layup to cut the lead to 2. And then finally, my last point is, how do you give up 126 points to Philly when George and Maxey both were playing as poorly as they were? It was just, like you're saying to start the show, if this was very reminiscent of a month ago. So pretty disgusted.
Yeah, very much so. And how do you give up that much? Well, it starts with Grimes in the 44. Yabusele is somebody who Philly ended up picking up because of his play in the Olympics. I don't know if you recall, but he was playing for France and really showed out in the Olympics for the French national team, and basically got himself another shot in the league based on the way that he was playing internationally there. And yeah, he was left open too frequently tonight. And one of those guys, I think that got comfortable early, and it allowed him to have a big game. 5 3-point makes. I mean, really 19 of 33 for Philly. 6 of them were Grimes and 5 of them were Yabusele. I mean, that is, I mean, 11 of the 19 are those two guys, unintended players. Wasn't Paul George, although he had 3. Maxey didn't hit a single 3. But again, they let a couple of guys get comfortable, and it winds up biting them late. Pajemski was Santos, I think, was the right move to be on the court. I think there were some switches there where Santos got on Grimes. You also have to worry about who's going to be on Maxey, who's going to be on Paul George in those situations late in the game. I think Steve had the right guys out there at the end. You needed Peyton's defense out there. I think, Pajemski had earned the right to not close the game tonight. Draymond being out there, of course. Steph being out there, of course. Could you have gone to Quentin Post, who had scored 16 points and had 9 rebounds? I think, they made the decision to predominantly go small. But Kyle, add that to the list. Add that to the list of, I made note of it, and I don't know that we mentioned it here in the last hour as we've started the show, or 45 minutes, but that's another one that it's all of a sudden the rotation's a mess, and Kirk can't find the right guy. Oh, this guy didn't play well, and it should have been this guy. Why was this guy playing? And that guy, we talked about it the other night. In the time that Jimmy Butler's been on the team, Kerr's basically used the same freaking rotation every single game. Same players, same time, same subs. Everybody knows when they're going in. Everybody knows when they're coming out. If a guy's hot, he stays in a little longer. If he's not, you make a move. And, everybody wanted to see Kevin Knox get more minutes. Kevin Knox ain't the freaking answer, all right? Like, we can put that to bed right now. He's a 10-day contract player that may get signed for the rest of the year. Kevin Knox ain't anything special. Like, let's cooking the Charlotte Hornets in the fourth quarter of a 40-point game doesn't mean you're an NBA player. Sorry, that's just reality. Again, I don't want to be overly harsh on Kevin Knox, but he stunk tonight, by the way. So, again, sometimes the guys who don't play in the second half and don't get the brunt of the heat for playing in the second half and failing in the second half is because you were so bad in the first half that the coach couldn't trust you to be out there in the fourth quarter. And that's the category Kevin Knox at his 10-day contract was in tonight. But again, I digress. I don't want to. I just that one just the last couple of days. It's like, yeah, you know what? Sign him. Don't sign him. We're talking about their 14th man or whatever it is. Like Kevin Knox is not the answer, in terms of anything significant. But yeah, again, you saw Pajemski not the same, Moody not the same, Healed awful. Like, it just the whole thing didn't flow at the level that we've seen it flow here in the last 3 weeks. And look, I'll say it, it's immediate. Like, check those damn injury reports. Like, I mean, you look at this one, Warriors playing again on Monday in Charlotte. Check those injury reports tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, Pacific. They'll come out, and I'll be looking at them, and somebody will tweet them out. Maybe I'll tweet them out if I'm in a moment where I got, where I remember to check it. But they need their guys playing to be able to be effective. All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Big thanks to Chuck. Big thanks to the callers here in our lengthy opening segment. Let's go ahead and take a timeout. Phone line still open, 808 KNBR. Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line open as well. Wasn't going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Wasn't going to be just coast to that 6 seed. We'll get into the YouTube chat coming up next. We've got Sounds of Dubs OT, all of that and much, much more straight ahead as the Warriors lose to the Sixers 126-119. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps rolling. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
To Maxey, lets it fly. No good. Maxey has now missed 12 straight three-point attempts. Curry sneaking down court. And Curry with the dunk. Take a picture. Steph even pointed at the bench with a little smile on his face as Curry with the slam has 29 points and a timeout by Philly.
First dunk for Stephen Curry since the 2018-19 season. I saw it floating around on Twitter tonight on social media. It was against the Kings. I couldn't remember. Did you see the date on it? Was the game? Was it November or was it February? It was at Oracle. It was against the Kings. They played them one time that year in November. They played them one time that year in February. I'm not sure which one it was.
I'm pretty sure it was February. I didn't catch the specific day, but okay. I am 90% sure February.
Yeah, right. It would have been right after the All-Star break. It was one of the first games after the All-Star break. I just remember these things. February 21st of 2019. So yeah, almost 6 years ago, the last dunk for Steph Curry. Curry doing his part tonight, 29, and really trying to ignite the Warriors. And I mean, you knew Steph, I thought his heater would translate coming off of the 56 in Orlando. Like, I thought he was playing at a level to where, one of the reasons you might have a little bit of optimism in this game was the fact that you felt pretty good about Steph having a big game, especially against a Philly team that's struggled defensively, and the national audience with the ABC Saturday night showcase game. And he's historically also had some big games in Philadelphia as well. And so, you thought, all right, Steph was going to hold up his end. He's done more than that, obviously, over the last 3 weeks, but just not enough really from anybody else tonight. Warriors lose 126-119. I mean, who played well for the Warriors in this one other than Steph Curry? I think, Gary Payton II, I thought Quentin Post played pretty well tonight. Draymond, all the missed layups. Moses Moody missed some layups himself. He did hit 2 of 4 from 3, but he was 1 of 4 on the interior. He missed a couple of layups. Podziemski, nothing close to the level that he's been given the Warriors of late. Kevin Knox might have been the worst player on the floor for the short time that he was out there, 7 minutes, -14. I think Guy Santos was okay tonight. Buddy Hield, 0 of 6 from 3, and 3 of the worst turnovers you'll ever see. I mean, the pass that he winged out of bounds, trying to hit Kevon Looney to start the split action at the elbow was, it was one of the worst passes I've seen anybody throw in an NBA game this year. I mean, that is like Shaq and a fool type stuff. And yeah, not a good night. James A chiming in, Dre passes like Tim Tebow tonight. 3 turnovers for Draymond Green. Again, some inopportune turnovers tonight. The 15 total is not the most horrific of numbers, and the 19 points off. I mean, that really didn't, but it just, it's the turnovers at inopportune times when you also are just missing layups at the level that the Warriors were missing layups. That's so problematic. All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's get to an early edition here of Kyle's Clicks as we roll on here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader Sounds of Dubs OT coming up. Rich Ray with Jimmy, 5 or 6 seed. Anything can happen. Without Jimmy, lottery pick. Yeah, that is, I think, even more simple and accurate as I can put it. With Jimmy, this is the 6th seed. Without him, they're going to be fighting for 9th or 10th. Andis Brown, Jimmy is the Warriors' glass slippers from Cinderella. Without him, they're ordinary. And I put it out there before the game. That was my number one thing tonight to watch for when it was announced that Jimmy was not going to play by Steve Kerr at 4:00 during his pregame press conference. My number one thing to watch, would the Warriors immediately look ordinary again. And sure enough, here we are 5 hours later as the game goes final, and they do. That was it. Phillies in shambles, but how much would Jimmy Butler's absence make the Warriors instantly ordinary? And I think tonight, Kyle, they were worse than ordinary. I think that's Quentin Grimes, that level of game. I mean, we've gone over it here for the last hour. Ugly, ugly, ugly stuff. But yeah, Andis, Jimmy is the glass slipper. Christopher Nolan, this should have been a win with or without Jimmy Butler. The defense tonight was pathetic. Well, on paper, yeah. I mean, on paper, you would think that. But again, the defense is not the same. And we had the numbers on Just Dubs. The Warriors are number one in the league defensively in the time that Jimmy Butler has been on the squad. In terms of the defensive rating, I believe. They were number one. They're right at the top. I should go back and make sure we had that right. They were right at the top defensively in the time that Jimmy's been with the Warriors. So, I mean, I think that's something to without him overall, I think they were still pretty good, top 10 for the most part this season, but much more up and down. And yeah, I mean, this team immediately without him, you don't have, you're not as good in terms of the team defense. You already don't have a point of attack defensive guy really. And so you're just more apt to get beat on driving kicks and all those different things. And so you look up at the end of the night and yeah, you end up giving up 126 and yeah, number one in defensive rating, 106.3 in the 8 games that Jimmy Butler, opponents' points per game, they're 3, but defensive rating per 100 possessions, the Warriors giving up 106.3, number one in the NBA. During the time that Jimmy Butler's been with the team. And tonight, yeah, they give up 126. Regulator Dre didn't used to be this bad scoring at the rim. What happened to him? Father time, I think, is part of it. I also think he really, I think it's athleticism. I think you lose a little, you lose a little tick on your vertical, on your explosion. You're just a little tick off, and it causes the whole layup experience to change. I also think Draymond kind of gave up on his offensive game when the Warriors got Kevin Durant because they were going to be so dominant offensively. He gave up on his 3-point shot. He gave up really looking to score. And Draymond was, I think if you go back to 2016, and that was the year that I think Draymond hit 38% from 3, 38.5% from 3, the 73-9 year. And he really was making himself into a threat offensively. And especially given the gravity that Steph was drawing in terms of attention and Klay Thompson was drawing in terms of attention and all of that. And then they went and got Kevin Durant. And I think, Draymond, it was, you're going to go Steph, you're going to go KD, Klay, if you remember the quote, I'd sacrifice and bleep, right? Klay was still going to take Klay shots. And so Draymond, I think, thought, well, I'm just going to go be a DPOY and have that be the signature that I put on the rest of my career. And so I think he gave up on his 3-point shot. I think he gave up on his offensive game. And I think he's been playing catch up really for the last 8 or 9 years. And as his skill has maybe improved somewhat, and he's tried to get that 3-point shot back, his athleticism is dipped, and he hasn't really been able to get it all the way back. Drew Butler, I feel like Dre always drives to the rim 100 miles an hour and clanks layups. Yeah, he's getting there, but it's the acceleration once you go up to hit it that's the most important factor there. So, yeah, Drew Butler got you there. Andis, Draymond's bonehead move asking Kerr to challenge. Man, that was an awful challenge. Oh, that was a brutal challenge. Horrible challenge. With on the Grimes 3 saying Grimes kicked out his leg. That was Draymond has done that before, and Kerr has told him no before. I think in that moment, Steve, with a little under a minute left, I think in that moment he thought it was worth the risk hey, maybe you get the call. Almost like I think you reach a point with calls sometimes where coaches think in their mind that if you don't get the call, you're probably going to lose the game anyway, so you might as well challenge it. So I think that's maybe, I don't want to put words in Kerr's mouth, but that's maybe why he was more willing to just roll with it. But man, you look at one quick replay and you're like, nope. Like Grimes is as straight, like not even he didn't even kick his leg a millimeter. Like he was straight up and down. It was clearly a foul on Draymond. It was the Warriors' last time out. And, in that situation, I will say, you can't. I think if you're Kerr, you got to take a deep breath and you got to ask the coaching staff, and you maybe have to look Draymond in the eye and say, "Sorry, Dre, I'm not taking my last time out. We're going to be down 4. We're going to be down 5. Go get it back, and I'm going to keep that timeout in my back pocket." Digum 117. Kerr has to be reasonable with Draymond. He listens to him too much. I think that's a fair criticism. I do think we've seen him, trust Draymond too much, but players have to be honest. There was a play the other night in Orlando where Draymond fouled. I think he fouled a 3-point shooter, and Kerr asked him. I had the Orlando feed up. I'm not sure if it was on the NBC Sports Bay Area feed, but I had the Orlando feed up, and they had Kerr. You couldn't hear him, but you could see him. Did you get him? Kerr was like, did you get him? Do you want me to challenge it? And Draymond said, no, I fouled him. And the Magic broadcast had heard it. They were close enough to be able to hear it. And I think it was Jeff Turner, the analyst for Orlando. He said, "Oh, Draymond told Kerr, no, I got him. Don't challenge it." So, I don't think it's. And to that point, Drew Butler, Dre's been pretty accurate with his challenge requests. Not tonight, but again, I think there is a push and pull there between Steve and between Draymond. Regulator, I think a dose of reality was needed for the media and fans. They were getting way ahead of themselves. I think that's a great point. I think that is something that crossed my mind tonight. Like it has gone from, hey, can this team get into the playoffs in the last couple of weeks, to they're going to win the chip, and they're going to, I do think there's a little bit of, a little bit of an unrealistic, like the Warriors can be back in terms of, hey, this team could get into the playoffs and win a round or win a couple of rounds. But I think you lose me, regulator. And this is something that I definitely had noticed in the last week and a half. Where you lose me is this notion that every game's going to be a blowout, and all of these guys now are great players, and it's just, they're going to punk Philly, and they're going to clown Charlotte, and they're going to blow out the Mavs, and they're going to dance on the Kings, and it ain't 2018, guys and gals. It ain't 2019, folks. It's not even 2022. This is, that was the big thing for me, is this team's going to struggle. This team is not Teflon. This team is not immune to struggles. And you saw it even in the Orlando game. I mean, I put it out there I think halftime of the Orlando game too. It's the fact that teams are going to have hot games against them, and there are going to be bad matchups. And role players are not going to play well. And there are going to be games Jimmy Butler misses. And now we've seen the significance of that. So, again, enjoy the ride. But I think everyone has to also kind of get a grip on the fact that this team's got a lot of work to do if they're going to even be a team that's going to get into the playoffs and win 1 series, let alone win 4 series. And a lot of things are going to have to go right. Sweet Chuck 75, can they leave Hield in Philly? Or is he so bad he couldn't crack the 76ers lineup? I don't think the Sixers want any part of Buddy Hield. Even at 20 and 21 and 38, or whatever their record is after winning the game tonight. I mean, they wanted no part of him. Sixers made a lot of boneheaded plays. George was mediocre. Maxey was ineffective. Man, that's a game you should win. I mean, no lies told, but again, the Warriors are just not good. They're not good without Jimmy. They're not. Like, and now it's without Wig. And again, Kuminga's still not back. And it's just like, can you find a way to win that game? Yes. I'm not. I guess I'm just more at the point where I wasn't surprised. I call me cynical. I just wasn't surprised because we've watched it for 50 games. And I think you were hoping that some of the shine from all of the winning would have kind of rubbed off to where, all right, the Warriors have learned enough to where you can take Jimmy away in a game like tonight with all those things Andis mentions, bonehead plays, George mediocre, Maxey ineffective, and you come up with just enough, but you just don't get the level of play. Again, who played well tonight? Kyle, who played well tonight? Steph. GP. Post.
Yeah.
Who played well? Who else?
Yeah.
I thought Santos was actually okay.
He was.
But
he was.
He was in the okay category. And, I mean, was there anybody else really okay? I mean, that's maybe Moody, but he missed a lot of layups. You know, this was one of Moody's worst games, I thought, of the last 3 weeks. I don't think much doubt about that.
I mean,
it happens.
I'm more surprised just how bad Pods played that he wasn't in the closing lineup. I'm still a little shook on that as well.
He earned it. I mean, he earned not playing down the stretch.
But yeah, it was more so just going back to the 8 games with Jimmy Butler and how good and effective he was. I was like, oh, there's Pods. That's the player that the Warriors thought he would be at the start of the season.
Yeah, no question. And again, it was Curry and Peyton out there predominantly at the end with Guy Santos and Draymond Green and Moses Moody basically down the stretch in this one. And again, I think that was the right call. I think you could have made the call to play Quentin Post down the stretch, but the Sixers weren't, their big was Yabusele. So he was going to try to, I think, take Post away from the basket in that situation. So I think you needed the defense of GP to be out there, and GP was scoring tonight. So I think that made it an easier decision, but you also lose a creator when you roll that way, because Moody's not a creator. Peyton's not a creator. And so you've got, Steph out there who is a creator. Draymond can be a creator, but he's not a creator who's truly a threat to score. And Santos is not a creator. So you basically have Steph, and your next best creator is Draymond. And so that, no, Santos not, Moody not, Peyton not. And I think that's when the offense can have a tendency to bog down. Rich Ray, I still think we would have blew Philly out and emptied the bench tonight with Jimmy, JD. Yeah, I think they would have won tonight with Jimmy for sure. I don't know if they would have blown him out, but they would have won. If Jimmy Butler even played the game he played Thursday night, I think the Warriors would have won the game. Because he would have elevated, he would have taken enough minutes from others, and he's shown a propensity to elevate play. There would have been, I think, a couple more turnovers forced tonight. That was the other thing. The Warriors only 14 turnovers forced tonight for the Warriors. We talked about this on Just Dubs this morning. The Warriors are forcing a lot of turnovers. They're in the top chunk of the league in terms of forcing turnovers in the time that Jimmy Butler's been here. So they've been getting out in transition. That works twofold. There wasn't a lot of that tonight, and when there was, the Warriors were chunking layups, as we've seen them do a lot over the last couple of years. So we got a couple more we want to get to, or we're going to take a quick timeout. Kyle, your call. Kyle's Clicks, early edition here. Disco Inferno without Curry on the court looked like a D-League team Is it a D team? A D team? Is that like their letter grade? Is it D League, which used to be G League? Is it a first half of my last name kind of team? Like what are we talking?
I think it's maybe more so like in high school or like club sports.
Okay,
like you have an A, B, C.
like a JV team. Yeah, I got you. Okay, yeah, okay. Yes. I was like, what kind of team are we talking about here, Cisco? All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It is Dubs OT with JD. Let's go ahead and take that time out. We'll come back. We'll get to our sounds at Dubs OT. We'll also do some fun with numbers and more of the best from the YouTube chat. Warriors lose 126-119. We got to take a look at the NBA scoreboard and the standings as well. Not a good night for the Warriors as it relates to the NBA standings. We'll let you know where they were helped, where they weren't helped, and just how fragile this thing is. We're talking about 6 seed. Where do the Warriors sit now in the NBA standings at the end of the close of business for this Saturday, March the 1st? We'll do that coming up right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, we're back. It's Dubs OT. Warriors lose 126-119. We'll have another edition of Kyle's Clicks here before we close things out on this Saturday night. We'll reconvene on Monday following the Warriors and the Hornets from Charlotte. 7 o'clock, 3 times next week. You can book it right now, 7 o'clock after the game against the Hornets. On Monday, 7 o'clock on Tuesday after the Warriors take on the Knicks, and 7 o'clock on Thursday after the Warriors take on the Brooklyn Nets, and then back at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City a week from tonight. We will be out there beginning a 7-game homestand for the Warriors as they will be taking on the Detroit Pistons in the first game back. So as always, stop by, say hi at Harmonic. We'll be out there following each and every game on the 7-game homestand. So let's get to our Sounds of Dubs OT. It is a short edition of Sounds of Dubs OT. They were packing up and trying to get the heck out of there tonight at Wells Fargo Center in South Philly. And so we're going to have a couple of Steve Kerr cuts, courtesy of our friend Anthony Slater of The Athletic, and one other cut from pregame. Shams Charania of ESPN now addressed Jonathan Kuminga's status. I think everybody was kind of leaning toward, Kuminga's probably coming back against Charlotte. Not so fast. We'll hear from Shams here in just a second on that. So here, let's get a couple of quick Kerrs as the Warriors lose. First one on Steph and the minutes distribution for Steph. He ended up with 36 tonight. Kerr brought him back with over 10 minutes to go because he chased this one, and the Warriors were in a bad way. The non-Curry minutes were killing him tonight, as we talked about a lot at the beginning of the show. And so with the Warriors down 11 and 10:02 to go, and the Warriors at minus 19 with him off the floor, Steve went back to him. He ended up playing 36 minutes. And then after the game, Steve Kerr addressing what the minutes distribution and plan needs to be for Steph here.
I mean, we got 3 and 4 nights. I can't play him 40 minutes. I don't really want to play him much more than 34, 35, but I think he ended up around 36 tonight. So shortened his rest in the second. Obviously, we were a little desperate and hanging in there, and we had a shot, so we went for it. But he'll get his rest tomorrow and be ready to go in Charlotte.
Yeah, and he's going to have to be ready to go in Charlotte. And that's not a game when you look at, front end of a back-to-back. We talked about the fact that the game on Tuesdays at Madison Square Garden and on TNT, and the league frowns upon star players missing national games. So you can book Steph to play in New York. Charlotte on the front end of that back-to-back is not a game, being in Steph Curry's hometown, that he would be looking to rest. And Steph, these last few weeks, has not been resting in back-to-backs. Really, the last 5 or 6 weeks, he has not been. And he's obviously looked a lot healthier since Jimmy Butler has been acquired and in the fold for the Warriors. And yeah, you heard Steve there. He played him 36, doesn't really want to play him more than 35. I think he'd prefer to really play him more like 30, 31, I think in a perfect world. And he gave him a longer rest in the first half, I think, because he knew he was going to try to extend him in the second half if need be. And I mean, he said it. The Warriors were a little desperate in the final quarter there, trying to not let the game get away from him at the top of the fourth quarter. And so he rolled with Steph. And so he's going to, we've seen tonight, indicator how vulnerable the Warriors are without Jimmy. Also an indicator as to how vulnerable the Warriors are without Steph. So they need him. And so he's just going to have to kind of push through. I do think they're going to have to find a game here or there to rest him, but it really, with the result of tonight's game, it can't be Monday in Charlotte. And obviously by league rule, it can't be the game in New York. Maybe you get the next 2 and you give them one in Brooklyn, and that gives them a little bit of a reset Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before you start really having games come every other day. Maybe you're able to do that. But again, that's only if you can somehow get the next two and then maybe Kuminga's back in the fold by that point in time and you can win again. But again, the bottom line is, and we talked about this in Just Dubs, and it's even more of a theme of the day as the Warriors lose this game without Jimmy Butler. They can't be messing around. If they truly want to get the 6 seed, they cannot be messing around with rest. They need everybody to beat anybody. Like that is if there is one thing you take away from this show tonight, the Warriors need everybody to beat anybody. Make a quote graphic out of that right there. They need everybody to beat anybody, and I think tonight shows it. All right, one more from Kerr, then we'll hear from Shams. Kind of a funny moment. I saw this one during one of the breaks earlier. So there was a reporter who asked, and I don't think it was one of the local reporters. I think it was a Philly reporter, asked about the Warriors bench being good enough in the finals. Is the Warriors bench good enough in the finals? Again, it had to be a Philly person, right? Like this team's fighting for the 6. It had to be a Philly person. And so that question got asked. I'll see if I can identify who it was if we hear the question there. But Kerr had a response that you would have expected.
I'm asking the last 10 years same questions, and I'm going to ask you again. Your bench players' performance in the finals. What do you think again?
We're going to ask that again? We're going to keep doing this? Every time you
I still have feel you are going to be final.
All right. So what was the question? Bench players in the finals?
Their performance, do you think it will be enough, this year's bench players' performance in the finals?
Yeah. We would like to make the playoffs. Talking about the finals? We just want to make the playoffs.
And also your former...
Let's not talk about the finals.
Okay.
All right, now I remember the guy. I can't remember his name. Is it? I can't remember the guy's name, but international media, and we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, they're trying to make the playoffs, and we'll see about the finals. I mean, we were on Just Dubs. God, how daunting a task would it be? You get in, and I mean, you look at some of the numbers. It's a nice segue before we hear from Shams to look at the NBA scoreboard a little bit tonight. And the way things all shook out in the Western Conference. Not too many games, but we are going to start to focus a little bit on the top end as well as the back end of the conference, because as the Warriors fight for potentially 6th, they would have the ability to who they're going to play at 3 and who's 2 and all that. And we were talking earlier today about, well, what if it winds up being Denver 2 and the Lakers 3? Well, guess what, Kyle Haar? Close of business tonight, March the 1st. It's OKC 1. It's the Denver Nuggets 2. And it's the Lakers 3. Memphis got beat tonight on a De'Aaron Fox game winner. The Spurs haven't been beating anybody. And De'Aaron Fox, the Spurs led by 20 plus in this game. Memphis rallied back, tied it. Spurs won it at the end there at Memphis tonight. So bad loss for the Grizzlies. Grizzlies lose 130-128. So Memphis dips to 4th. So right now, and think about this. Right now, it would be Memphis and Houston 4-5. The Rockets got beat tonight by Sacramento in Houston. The Sacramento won that game 113-103. So right now it'd be Memphis 4, Houston 5, and the Warriors still 5 back of the Rockets for 5th. So I don't think 5th is attainable. But think about that as it relates to OKC is the 1 seed. OKC playing, if it shakes out that way, and I think that would be the most true way for it to shake out. Again, I think Denver and the Lakers are the 2nd and 3rd best teams. They should be 2-3. OKC's the 1. Houston and Memphis probably should be some version of 4-5. Like if it's truly based on what those teams are, and that would really benefit OKC, obviously, because they would have the ability to play their first round opponent, get through. Then you're playing Memphis or Houston, while the Lakers and Nuggets, in theory, would be playing each other. And so one of them would knock the other out. Like that's the true benefit of being the 1 seed, assuming the other top teams ring true in terms of their overall seeding. So close of business tonight, Warriors end up dipping to 7th, losing tonight in Philly. So they're 32-28, a half game out of 6th, a half game up on Sacramento now. Kings have won 3 in a row since the Warriors blasted them in Sacramento a week ago last night. The Kings have beaten Charlotte, and who else did they beat? They beat what? Why am I? Oh, they won in Utah. They beat Charlotte, won in Utah, and tonight won in Houston. First couple of games of a road trip. They're 31-28. They've moved in front of percentage points Minnesota and Dallas. So the Kings are actually 8. The Warriors are 7. Kings are 8. Minnesota's 9. Dallas is 10 at the close of business. But basically, the Kings, Timberwolves, and Mavs are all tied at 3 over 500. The Warriors are 4 over 500. The Clippers are 5 over 500 and currently holding the 6th spot. And Phoenix is 3.5 back of 10th, currently sitting in 11th in the Western Conference. So, you just want to get to the playoffs, as Steve Kerr mentioned. Milwaukee won in Dallas, 132-117 tonight. And as far as just kind of looking ahead at what's coming up tomorrow, Lakers and Clippers play again. Minnesota and Phoenix play tomorrow as well. So keep an eye on that. And then at the top of the Western Conference, Denver is playing in Boston. That's a morning game tomorrow. So keep an eye on that. And then Dallas and the Kings play on Monday in Dallas. So that's the team that's currently 8th going up against the team that's currently 10th. So that's a huge game. And Sacramento just won in Dallas a couple of weeks ago. Kings are they're having an odd year. They are really having an odd year. Like they have done some unconventional, like I was talking about during the games, because they were playing as the Warriors were playing. They started a half hour earlier, Kyle. I was talking to a Sacramento friend kind of during the game, and I'm had the Kings on in the background, the Warriors on the primary TV with the sound. And I mean, they have had a weird year. They massively underachieved by their own expectations. They fire Mike Brown for a coach that's worse than Mike Brown, but Doug Christie's 8 games over 500 as the head coach. That shouldn't work, but it has. It also, all of their successes, oddly, I don't think any of them translate to next year. Like it's such a weird, but yet you could also, they trade De'Aaron Fox, maybe the number 1 face of their franchise, the number 2 player, and they end up with Levine, and they go make some other ancillary moves, and they haven't been worse for it. They haven't necessarily been better for it, but they haven't been worse for it. And then you look up and they're like, they've kind of overachieved. Like they've been well under their expectations, but given their own odd moves, they've also kind of overachieved. Like they traded De'Aaron Fox and they fired Mike Brown. They brought in Zach LaVine and Doug Crit, but they're 3 over. Like it feels like with all of that stuff, they should be, and I don't know who gets the credit for it, because again, I think none of it's translatable. Like Doug Christie's going to lose all of his assistants and probably be a joke next year. They run the team back that they've got this year. Next year, they're probably going to be a bottom 5 team in the West with the trajectory of San Antonio, and Phoenix will probably do something. And just like, so it's such an odd year, massively under expectations, but yet they've also kind of overachieved, and yet they also have no direction for the future. Like it is just a weird existence. Does that make sense, Kyle? Did I encapsulate that well?
It's kind of like they lowered the floor all the way down, and it was set there. It was set there, and then the floor was so low that, not that it became easier to exceed those expectations, but to outperform them was,
they are having a weird year. Like they are having a very, 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 very weird year. But they're right there. again, I said they're playing for 10th, and I think, maybe they're not playing for 10th. Dallas and Minnesota are suddenly in shambles. And again, I think the Warriors with Jimmy Butler are better. I think the Warriors with Jimmy Butler maybe aren't better. Yeah, I think we've learned that tonight in a major way. Let's hear Shams, and then we'll do some fun with numbers. The update on Jonathan Kuminga and KM Johnson in the YouTube chat. I hope we don't find out they seriously misled us about JK's ankle. I want to say this before we hear from Shams. I don't think anybody has misled anybody about Kuminga's ankle. It was a very serious ankle injury. Tonight marks the 8-week mark that Kuminga, when he got injured against Memphis on January 4th, it was the night before the 49ers' last game of the season. That's how long it's been. 8 weeks ago tonight. I don't think anybody's misled anybody. It was a very serious ankle injury. Immediately, the Warriors said he was not going to return anytime soon. I think they used the term significant. They did an immediate, I think, reevaluated in 3 weeks, and then will be reevaluated again in 2 weeks. And then it was basically close enough to the All-Star break to where they thought he was far enough away to where they wanted to give him the break. And I think I know there's also been reportedly some swelling as he's tried to come back at different points as he's gone through his workouts in the ankle. This was a legit ankle injury. I'm not going to call it a high ankle or anything like that because I don't have the specific sourcing on that. But yeah, Drew Butler, there's no ankle gate. There is no ankle gate. Like, it was a bad ankle sprain can be 6 to 8 weeks, and they're at 8 weeks. Like, it was not just a slight roll. So again, I don't think anybody's misled anybody. I also think the Warriors are really trying to make sure he doesn't come back and then has to get shut down again. I think that's the biggest thing because they know they need him at a minimum as a role player and at a maximum as somebody that can help really elevate their stature here between now and the end of the season. So that being said, I think everybody kind of thought he was going to be back by now. So roughly, I think, All-Star break was kind of the target, and then it's going to be after the All-Star break. And now, so I think now's the point at which it starts to feel like it's maybe running a little bit long. I got the impression Monday was on the table in Charlotte. Well, here's what Shams Charania of ESPN had to say before the game about where things stand with Kuminga.
Jonathan Kuminga is really close on a return. He's in the final stages of a rehab of his significant ankle sprain suffered in January, and his return will not be tonight. It's unlikely to be Monday in Charlotte. They have 3 more games on this road trip before they return home. I'm told the Warriors are considering waiting until next weekend when they're back at home for his return. His integration, though, will be a big challenge. The next big challenge for the Warriors, seeing what role he has. Before his injury, he averaged 21 points per game in his last 10 or 15 games.
Yeah, and again, we'll see if he can get back to that point. I don't know. I guess wait until home helps. Role players tend to play better at home. Maybe, there's a little bit more margin for error playing at home. It allows him to work his way back in. You do get more practice time at home, typically. He has been practicing and has been scrimmaging, although the Warriors have not been really practicing and scrimmaging at a significant level. I think, that's one of the misnomers is that teams really have a lot of practices once the season gets going. I think they've had like 1 or 2 practices. I think they've had 2 practices, like 2 real practices since the Jimmy Butler trade even. So Kuminga's been going at it with others in the, G Leaguers, if they get invited up for practice, and other staffers and things like that, playing full court. Some of the younger guys playing like 5-on-5. Like the Warriors have not had a lot of scrimmaging with the actual team 5-on-5. You just don't do it once you get 50, 60 games into a season. So we'll see. But yeah, I do think everybody kind of thought he would have had the potential to help on this trip. Like, in a perfect world for me, Jimmy Butler is not hurt and he plays tonight and Kuminga plays tonight, or Jimmy Butler's not hurt and Kuminga plays in Charlotte Monday. Like I kind of feel like that would have been a nice game to bring him back. It's a game where you got a big margin for error. He can, get his feet wet a little bit. You kind of ease him in against Charlotte, ease him in against Philly, see what he's got against the Knicks, let him stretch his legs a little against Brooklyn, and then you're coming home and you kind of hit the ground running. But that, sounds like maybe it's off the table. But the one thing the Warriors better not be doing is looking at this thing like they've got all this margin for error to play with. And again, I'm not putting as much on Kuminga's, like we saw tonight, how small the margin of error is. I'm not putting a bunch on Kuminga's, like the necessity for him to be a dominant big time player for them. Like to me, it's like, make sure he's healthy, get him out there, and it'll naturally happen as it has to happen. But I think this is the first time where even I will say, like, what's the deal? Because I think it was like tonight, it was tonight or Monday, and now it's like maybe next week. Like something is a little bit off there. But I don't think anybody's been misled or anything like that. I think the Warriors are very forthright in the fact that it was a significant ankle injury. Now, do we find out it was broken as opposed to just sprained? I don't know. We'll see. We'll do some digging on that. But I think everybody would have anticipated on January 4th, even a significant ankle sprain, he would have been back by March 1st. We'll leave it at that point. All right, let's do some fun with numbers, and then we'll round it out with Kyle's clicks.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors lose 126-119. Season high tying 5-game winning streak comes to an end. 1-1 on the trip. They split the season series with Philadelphia, and this is a year where you really want to sweep the season series against Philadelphia. The Warriors now 15-15 on the road. 76ers, or the Warriors played their 36th clutch game of the year, and that's the third most in the league. And next to Minnesota and Houston, Warriors lose, so they are 18-18, back to 500 in clutch games. 34th different starting lineup for the Dubs tonight, most in the league, other than Philadelphia. Kerr had been on a nice little run of the same starting lineup there, but with Jimmy Butler out, Quentin Post went in. New combination, 34th different lineup for the Warriors. Warriors 1-22 when trailing going to the fourth quarter. They were down going to the fourth, and they ended up losing yet again. Philly had an opponent season high tonight in three-point percentage. 19 for 33, 56.2% on threes. That was the highest percentage shot, actually 57.6 from three. That was the highest percentage shot by any team against the Warriors this year. It beat out the game in Memphis. Remember the game in Memphis, Kyle, right before Christmas, where the Warriors were down 50 and I think got beat by 40. I don't know. It was ugly. But that night, the Grizzlies hit 56% of their threes. Tonight, Philly hits 57% of their threes. Steph, 7th double-double of the year, points and assists, 29 points. Had a season-high 13 assists tonight. And Curry's first dunk, yes, since February 21st of 2019 against Sacramento, the 27th career regular season dunk for Stephen Curry, but the first since 2019. I would have taken the under on 27 for his career. I know it's a long career now, Kyle, but 27?
The fact that we're telling how many dunks he has because there's so few is pretty funny.
27 dunks. So that's, what is that, like 2 a season, roughly? I guess maybe a little less than that. But Quentin Post, double figures, second straight game. GP2, 15 off the bench. Guy Santos had 14. Fifth game this year where he's had 10 or more. Moses Moody, the Warriors lost for the first time this season when Moses Moody started at the 3, not the 4. I don't know that necessarily matters. 11-1 now. And Jimmy Butler III missed his first game since joining the Warriors, a right mid-back spasm. And the Warriors are going to have to hope that Jimmy Butler is able to come back and be available to play coming up on Monday in Charlotte. And Jonathan Kuminga, 26 games. My goodness. That essentially by Shams ruled out for Monday against Charlotte. 27 games, a third of the season. Like that is a lot of games missed for Jonathan Kuminga, and such a disappointment for him and the Warriors, because he was breaking out in the couple of weeks there before, I think at a greater level than maybe we've seen in terms of impact in his NBA career. All right, final couple of minutes as you listen to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader. Dubs OT with JD. Kyle, let's get a few. I'm going to go to one. Estimated eyes. Pump the brakes, JD. It's one game, not from early on. No, this is two different teams. This is not like we've seen. It's not one game. It's 50, however many games. What's the Warriors' record? They've played 60 games, right? They're 32-28. They've played 60 games. They've played 8 with Jimmy Butler. They played 52 games without Jimmy Butler. And we know what that team was without Jimmy Butler. Not a good team. So I guess this was the, 860. Anyway, we know what they are. This is not a pump the brakes on one bad game. No, not at all. This is the team that they were all freaking year when they didn't have Jimmy Butler. All right, Kyle, the floor is yours, my friend. Dubs OT is hot tonight. Read the Steed. Yes. We haven't had one of these since the Utah game. I would trade Buddy for a single Cheeto. Yeah, but then you take like a $40 million cap hit. 4-on-5 is better than Buddy in the lineup. Look, Buddy was bad tonight, but Buddy wasn't even at the top of the list of things that were bad tonight. Like I get like, we're kind of getting into that mode where it's like, Warriors lose. Buddy was bad. Let's all S on Buddy for the whole night. Like, yeah, Buddy was bad. But you know what? Podziemski was bad. Draymond wasn't good. Like, it wasn't just Buddy tonight. And, I mean, how many minutes did Buddy play? I mean, truly, how many minutes did Buddy play tonight? Let me find that. 17. He played 17 minutes tonight. Like, again, I'm not saying he was good, but Buddy Hield was down on he's probably in the top 5 things. Rich Ray, 7 ain't bad if we can get back Jimmy. Get bad back. Oh, get bad back Jimmy back. Bad back Jimmy back. 7 ain't bad. 7 seed? The 7 seed? Is that what that is? Kyle?
7 seed. 7 seed.
7 seed. Yeah. Well, again, you might get all 7 would mean is you got to win a play-in game. You get 2 chances to win 1, and you'd be, maybe at this point playing Denver or the Lakers. San Jose Jazz fan 4. Dre needs to look at the man in the mirror. Shout out Michael Jackson. Yeah, Draymond was not good tonight. Like I think Draymond cost the Warriors more tonight than Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield was not good tonight. Like you got to always look at your best players first. Again, Buddy was not good, but we're kind of in this mode, like I said, where Warriors lost. Let's all pick the guy we don't like and just no. Draymond was not good tonight. Podziemski was not good. Like there were starters that weren't good tonight. What else we got? Warriors making the 6 seed may just be a collusion now. No, they can get to the 6, but you better not tell me Jimmy Butler's going to miss the next 6 games. Otherwise, yeah, see ya. Enter the Draymond. Without Jimmy, we can't function. Pretty true. I mean, again, I know there are people that are thinking I'm freaking out about this. We saw 52 games or 51 games, I guess it was, because they played 60, now 9 since the trade. That's where my math was effed up. 25 and 26 in 51 games. Like we've seen what and it was worse than that for 3 months after the 12-3 start. I mean, Jesus, like what are we doing here? Joke's on you, man. How does an offense look so bad without one player? The pieces are awful. Yeah, he made Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski look like pretty damn good NBA starters. And you take him away, and neither one of them look like NBA starters tonight. Like, I don't think Moody was horrible, but Moses Moody did not look like an NBA starter tonight. Brandon Pajemski did not look like an NBA starter tonight. Now, one bad game for those two, I wouldn't get overly concerned about it as long as Jimmy Butler's freaking playing Monday. If he's not, then who knows? The Charlotte game. Like flip a freaking coin. When's the last time Charlotte won? I mean, I think they can win. Yes, I think they can beat Charlotte with the team that played tonight. I do. I think they're significantly worse. I mean, Charlotte doesn't have Maxey or Paul George or Yubasele or Quentin freaking Grimes, who's, but I'm sure they have somebody that could play the Quentin Grimes role. San Jose Jazz fan 4. The Warriors are bad, not good, which is also a pretty good Jazz group from Toronto. Okay, that's cool. Learned a little something new there tonight. Robert Brown, before Buddy, Pods was usually the one taking the heat. Yes, that is a fact. And Pods has another bad game on Monday, and he's going to be right back in that same category. All right.
I think. Sorry. We'll go for one more. I think my favorite goes to San Jose Jazz fan, and he was on fire tonight. I'll give him that. And this was in your opening segment when you were like, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to be blunt." So this has to do with that.
Be as blunt as you like, JD. We all need a blunt. No doubt. Knox was awful tonight, by the way. I think Knox was the worst player on the floor tonight. Like, if we're being real, I think he was the worst player on the floor tonight of anybody. Buddy was up there. But Knox was – Buddy actually had a positive plus-minus, by the way. I didn't bring that up because I think the eye test sometimes overrides the plus-minus. And in Buddy's case, I think it really did. But Buddy was a +3 tonight, I think. Yeah, go figure. Fun with numbers. There's some fun with numbers. Buddy Hield. I'm looking at it right now, Kyle. Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was a +3. Warriors players who were a net positive tonight. All right, you ready? Steph +12. Gary Payton II +8. I'm trying to go in order. Gary Payton II +8. Draymond Green +3. Buddy Hield +3. Guy Santos even. Quentin Post -2. And then it got bad from there. Pat Spencer -9. Pat Spencer actually gave Knox a run for his money. Pat Spencer was awful in his – I almost forgot Pat Spencer even played. Pat Spencer actually was – man, Pat Spencer and Kevin Knox were both worse than Buddy tonight by a significant margin. Pat Spencer was -9 in 3 minutes. Kevin Knox -14 in 7 minutes. What's worse? I think it's -9 and 3 is worse than -14 and 7.
Yeah, triple the points in a minute. In 3 minutes.
Looney had 10 points and was a -10. That's rare. Moody was -10. And Pajemski -16. Actually, game worst for Pajemski. -16 when you look at the plus-minus. And only a couple of guys in the believe it or not, don't laugh. The worst plus-minus. This is wild. The worst plus-minus on the Sixers tonight. You want to take a guess who it was?
Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes was -5. Quentin Grimes scored 44. It was -5. Weird plus-minus night.
Is Buddy Hield greater than Quentin Grimes?
That's a weird plus-minus night. The worst, there were only 2 Sixers who were in the negative tonight. Quentin Grimes -5 and Justin Edwards, who he play for, -1. Justin Edwards would be a who he play for candidate. But Quentin Grimes, 44, and the Warriors lose to the Sixers 126-119. All right, we'll call it a night on that one. Great stuff, Kyle. Really appreciate it, my man. I saw Ryan McCarthy in the background there. Who else was helping out tonight?
Yeah, Ryan McCarthy was here. That was about it, but we have Cole roaming around the building, Kyle Chung doing his thing. So a full house, but not necessarily everyone.
So you guys like
Dubs OT.
You guys going to North Beach or what?
Oh, man, I wish.
Something planned after the walk down Broadway, and
you know what? I've driven past Broadway. I think I'm good.
You're good. You'd be all right. You walk down there,
and I grab a Kolsch.
And then you hit Columbus, and you're in North Beach, and then it's a good time. Now we might need to have a little Dubs OT, little Dubs OT excursion at some point. If Greg Silver's there, a celebration. There. Yeah, Greg's in. I'm like, Greg's in Indy. Like, what, Greg? Why are you in Indy? Like, you guys did shows already. Like, why you're hanging out to watch guys throw? Like, you hanging out to watch the shuttle drill, Greg? You hanging out to watch? Are you running a 40 tomorrow, Greg?
Like, watching the underwear Olympics.
Come on, Greg. Like, I would have thought you would have been on the first flight out of there yesterday at 5:00 Eastern. I mean, what are we doing? Like, come on. All right. On that note, for Kyle and Ryan and Cole and Kyle Chung and everybody else, Raph earlier, Just Dubs, everybody in the chat, great night in the chat, great night on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. As we do this thing win or lose, and so we will be back Monday night at 7. Going to be a little bit of a gap. Games at 4. We got Larry's Niners Nightly Show. Be talking a lot, obviously, about downtown. Or be talking a lot about the Deebo Samuel trade, downtown Walnut Creek. Drew Butler, JD about to tear up downtown Walnut Creek. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not tonight, but so we'll be on at 7, and then a full 2 hours from 7 to 9 on Monday after the Warriors take on the Hornets. So we'll talk to you then. Warriors lose at 126-119. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Grimes in the open court, challenged by Pachevsky, counted and a foul. Grimes having a Curry night right now. Everything is falling. He's 12 for 13, and a free throw coming for his 30th point of the game.
John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls.
Everything's gonna be all right.